Okay, so in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you what functions are, how we can use them, go over a few examples of how to create a function. So let's get started. Functions in JavaScript are one of the fundamental building blocks, allowing you to define reusable code blocks that can be executed at a later time. They encapsulate a set of statements that perform a specific task or calculate a value. So let's get into some examples of how you can use functions and what functions are. So function declaration, which is basically creating your functions. Okay, so function declaration defines a function with a specified parameter and a body. Okay, so this is a function. To create a function, you type in the name function. This is a keyword. Then you give your function a name. Then you give it some kind of parameter. Okay, and then this is considered the body of a function, and inside of it you return whatever you wanted to return after performing some kind of task. So this is how a function works, and as you can see, we are getting hello Alice because we are passing in the string, okay, and using this, which is known as concatenation, and we're just attaching this to this string right here. And this is basically this right here. This is the parameter, and this is what is getting passed to that parameter. So this is how a function works. We use the function keyword, give it a name, pass in the parameter. Inside of the body, we give it a return and just return something. Okay, that's how a function is declared. Let's move on to our next example, which is function expression. A function expression defines a function as a part of a larger expression, typically assigning it to a variable. Okay, so this is one way to declare your function, but this way is known as function expression, which is expressing that my variable right here is a function. So that's known as function expression. And we have not given it a name here because this is the name. This will be considered the name of the function. And we're declaring it just like we did here. And we're running it just like we did here. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So introduced in ES6, arrow functions provide a shorter syntax for writing functions and do not bind their own this. Okay, so you cannot use the this keyword with this, but you can use the this keyword in this. Okay, right now it's basically running the same thing, but this is an arrow function. This type of syntax for creating a function is known as an arrow function, and we're just running that, and you can see that it's working. Okay, but the syntax for creating an arrow function is basically parentheses, pass in the parameter, but use a arrow, which is an equal to sign and a greater than sign, and then you just create the body of that and pass in a return. Okay, so this as a normal function would have looked something like this. If I save this, you can see it's the same result. Okay, so this is the difference between these two. And if I, let's say, wanted to make this into an arrow function, right, all you do is you change this to a const, say equal to, okay, and then you just do this. And now this look the same. So this is just a shorter way of writing a function. That's it. And also when it comes to arrow functions, if there is only one parameter and one statement, you can omit the parentheses and braces, which is basically saying that if you are returning something like this, right, that is simple, you are not performing some other task, okay, like running something more on this, like let's say if I have something like this, right, that's adding this extra line here and then returning the result, then I need to create the body. But if I want to make this even shorter, what I can do is I can just do this. That is basically, because I have only one parameter, I can just do this and then the arrow, and then I just add this, which is this right here. Okay, but this only works because there isn't anything more. But here I need to run this first and then add it into this. So I need this, the body. I need that. So that's how you create a arrow function and omit the parentheses and braces. Okay, that's how that works. So as you can see the result. Now let's move on to the next one, which is anonymous functions. Okay, so this isn't really that difficult to understand. Okay, so anonymous functions are functions without a name and are often used as an argument to other functions. So basically it's saying that this part right here, which does not have a name and is passed as an argument to another function, which is this is a function and this is passed as an argument to this. So this is known as a anonymous function. That's it. So immediately invoked expression, which basically means that as soon as your JavaScript file loads, this will just run the function automatically. Because if we did not have this, right, if you go back to something like this, right, to run this function, do this, we need to put in the name and then the parentheses and then pass in whatever parameter we need to, and that would run the function. But if we want a immediately invoked function expression, we do this. We write our function, we put that function inside of parentheses, and then we add 2 more parentheses. Then our function, as soon as our JavaScript file loads, it will just run the function automatically without invoking it ourselves. So let's move on to the next one, which is function parameters and arguments. Okay, so parameter, what is that? Parameters are named variables defined in the function signature, and arguments are values passed to the function when it is invoked. So what's the difference between parameters and arguments? And I want you to think about this a little bit. These two are parameters, okay, and these two are arguments. So that's what a parameter and an argument is, because parameter is named variables. These are variables, okay, these are considered variables and defined in the function signature. Okay, so when the function is created, then this is added inside of it. Arguments, values passed to the function when it is invoked. Okay, so these are the values that I'm passing in when it is invoked, when it is created. So this is how parameters and functions work. These are considered parameters and these are considered arguments. So let's move on to the next one, which is default parameters. Okay, so the thing about, let's go to the above example. So basically default parameters are when I have created my parameters, right? I need to pass in the argument. For example, let me just remove this, just save this, and yeah, now you will see not a number, okay? Because this required a number to be here, okay? For example, instead of this, let me just do this, okay? Now you will see it's undefined. And the reason for that is this needs to have something, because this is like a variable. You need to define this, otherwise it will be undefined. So what you can do to define something, right, like this, like for example, if I did not have this, if I save this, it'll just saying hello undefined. But if I do this is equal to and this, it will be okay. If I do not pass in anything, then what I want you to do is give this parameter this value right here, okay? And this can be a string or object or whatever you want, but you need to pass in something if your parameter is going to be empty. So next, what you need to keep in mind is that even if I have given this a default value, I can also change it moving forward. Like I can also do this, which is basically doing that first this name, because nothing is passed, gets this, and then it ends up changing that to this, and then it passes it. That's what's happening with this. So this is changeable. I just wanted to tell you that. So these are the default parameters. Okay, so what a REST parameter is: REST parameters allow a function to accept an infinite number of arguments as an array. So what's happening here is that this, using these three dots, I'm basically saying that I am passing in parameters, okay? I'm passing in arguments, and my parameter can have as many arguments as I want, and to get all of those, I can add this to say that this is now an array, and then I'm just getting that array. I can just get that array by using the name of the variable, and as you can see, I'm getting that, and I'm using a map method to just go through the array and get this. And let's say, for example, this was hi, and I'm gonna save this. As you can see, now it's accepting a string, and also it's accepting the other arguments as well. So REST parameters, which is this is known as a REST parameter, allows a function to accept an infinite number of arguments. These are known as the arguments. So a REST parameter allows the function to accept an infinite number of arguments. Okay, so I can add as many as I want. For example, if I just did this, save this, now you can see I can get this as well. If I say, I can get this. If I say this, I can get this right here. So as you can see, I can get as many arguments as I want using a REST parameter. Okay, so this was the REST parameters. Okay, so the final one is the return statement, which is The return statement ends function execution and specifies a value to be returned to the function caller. Okay, so now as you can see, I'm returning the multiplied value of a and b, which is 3 and 4 multiplied. Okay, but as you can see, I'm trying to console log something, but it is not console logging because the return statement ends our function. Okay, so anything beyond a return does not execute, one, and two, return ends up giving our function some kind of value. Because let's say multiplied, okay, and I do this, right? You will see the answer is still 12. Change this. See, it's 15 now. And the reason for that is our return is giving whatever is done to this and returning it to this. Okay, it's making this whatever value we get from this. Okay, so return works like this as well. Return just gives us back whatever we have placed in front of it. So this was about functions. I hope you liked this tutorial. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.